In the previous episode, Reina's final life was transferred to Bonnie, but along with it came her hunter instincts, turning Bonnie into a vampire hunter. When Bonnie woke up, she started hunting her vampire friends. Damon and Enzo found a way to break the curse by severing Bonnie's connection with the last Everlasting. Damon entered the vault at the armory, found the Everlasting's corpse, set it on fire, and lifted the curse from Bonnie. But as he left, he started hearing Elena's voice. Enzo rushed into the vault to help the injured Damon, but the creature also took Enzo. Since Damon and Enzo disappeared from the armory, Stefan and the others have been searching for their whereabouts. Little did they know, Damon and Enzo had already become slaves to a demon, abducting humans en masse, hanging them upside down like livestock to drain their blood. Damon and Enzo staged a car accident to kidnap a couple, hypnotizing them into confessing their sins.
So, between the two of you, who's worse?
Come on, winner gets a prize.
The woman had cheated multiple times with her best friend's boyfriend, while the man had been stealing his grandmother's painkillers. Clearly, the man's crime was worse, and he would suffer the most painful death, while the woman received Enzo's mercy. Enzo took care of disposing of the bodies. Damon threw the man into a blood pool, and in an instant, he became a bloody skeleton. Damon and Enzo had turned into judges, hunting the most wicked humans. They had fed dozens of people to the blood pool, but the demon was still not satisfied. Meanwhile, Caroline had moved into Stefan's mansion, and they were finally together. Every time Bonnie played the guitar, she would think back to her happy moments with Enzo, and tears would fall uncontrollably. The police discovered the body of the woman Enzo had disposed of in the wilderness, which was a breakthrough for Stefan and the others, since Damon and Enzo had never left any bodies behind before. Caroline planned to visit her two daughters and meet their new nanny, Celine. Stefan, on the other hand, headed to the crime scene with Bonnie. Meanwhile, Alaric had taken over the armory and recruited two interns, Dorian and Georgie. With the help of Dorian and Georgie, Alaric, who had his vision and hearing blocked, discovered a hidden space in the vault. His body seemed to sink into the stone wall. Damon leisurely read a book. An anxious Enzo complained about how many more bodies the demon would need to be satisfied, while Damon kindly reminded him.
It can hear you.
It can get into our minds, it knows how I feel.
Well, there's no reason to go out of your way to aggravate it.
This revealed that the demon's power was similar to Silas's. It could enter people's minds and read their thoughts. Through Damon and Enzo's conversation, we learned that Damon had shut off his humanity and was fully enjoying serving the demon. Enzo, however, had not turned off his humanity and was reluctantly serving the demon. Their argument caused the blood pool to churn, and Enzo angrily yelled. Damon kicked Enzo into the blood pool, and a pair of withered hands grabbed Enzo's head, causing him to scream in agony. Damon casually continued reading his book. Caroline visited her daughters and was very pleased with the nanny, Celine. Caroline had obtained a video from the psychiatric hospital. It turned out that before entering the vault, Enzo had met with Virginia to ask her about the demon in the vault, but the most crucial part of their conversation had been destroyed, and Virginia had escaped from the psychiatric hospital, her whereabouts unknown. Alaric and his team discovered a treasure room in the hidden passage of the vault, filled with gold, silver, jewelry, and famous paintings and antiques. In the corner sat a mysterious skeleton alongside a tattered ancient book, seemingly concealing an earth-shattering secret, unknown to anyone. After Stefan and Bonnie arrived at the crime scene, they discovered the woman's body tied to the car with her hands behind her back. In addition to bite marks on her neck, there were also ligature marks from some kind of strangling. Bonnie speculated that this was a clue left by Enzo. After hearing this, Caroline searched for local news near the crime scene. She discovered that a few months ago, blood was found in a nearby stream, which was traced back to a slaughterhouse with faulty drainage. The slaughterhouse had since been shut down. Stefan's gut told him that Damon and Enzo were there. After hanging up the phone, Caroline continued to study the video. Just then, the nanny Celine called, saying she couldn't reach Alaric. While they were talking, Celine suddenly noticed the front door was open, but both kids were upstairs in their rooms. When Celine returned to the kitchen, she found the knife she had just been using was gone.
Caroline? Someone's in the house.
Celine?
Following the clues, Stefan tracked down the abandoned slaughterhouse. He discovered all the missing people hanging like livestock, completely drained of blood. After months apart, the Salvatore brothers finally reunited. Damon's evil smile is still as charming as ever. Meanwhile, Virginia, who had escaped from the psychiatric hospital, broke into Alaric's house. She first slit Celine's throat, then began searching for the twins. Laughter echoed from the closet, and just in the nick of time, Caroline arrived and knocked Virginia unconscious. After ensuring her daughters were safe, Caroline quickly healed Celine with her blood, and then erased her memory. When Virginia awoke, she told Caroline that she would come for the Gemini Coven. With that, she bit off her own tongue and committed suicide. Bonnie stayed at the murder scene. She found that there was still a piece of wax stuck in the ear of the corpse. At that moment, Stefan called, and Bonnie hurried to the slaughterhouse. Damon ignored Stefan, who had tipped him off, and continued to clean up the blood. Stefan, however, was curious about what exactly was lurking in the blood pool beneath his feet. Damon skipped over the topic and instead took credit from Stefan.
You should be proud of me. Killing bad people. Go home, Stefan. We're all good here.
As Stefan surveyed the hellish scene around him, he could tell things were far from fine. His sharp instincts immediately sensed that his brother had once again turned off his humanity. Damon claimed he'd seen true hell, and turning his humanity back on wouldn't change a thing. Stefan insisted on taking Damon away. It seemed like Damon had received an order, as he told his brother.
You need to go. It doesn't want you yet.
Not without you.
But Stefan struck first, attacking Damon. Even if he had to tie him up, he was determined to take his brother back. Unexpectedly, Enzo showed up. Damon, in turn, took Bonnie hostage. With his back to Damon, Enzo gave Stefan a look, signaling him to take Bonnie away before the situation spiraled further out of control. Stefan had no choice but to comply. As Bonnie left, she cast a longing glance at Enzo, but Enzo remained cold, refusing to even look at her. Stefan and Bonnie returned disappointed. As Bonnie strummed her guitar once more, she suddenly remembered Enzo once telling her a myth about sirens. Sailors would stuff wax in their ears to resist being lured by the man-eating creatures. The victim's bound posture and the wax in her ears were clues about the identity of the demon. Meanwhile, Damon and Enzo continued their roles as executioners, targeting a painter. This artist specialized in painting with red. Most wouldn't notice, but for vampires, the scent of the artist's paints was all too familiar.
You are indeed painting with human blood.
Enzo was preparing to offer the painter to the demon when Damon suddenly stopped him. It was clear that Stefan's arrival today was due to someone tipping him off. Damon had already noticed Enzo's little schemes and kindly reminded him. The demon could peer into Damon and Enzo's minds at any moment. Damon had turned off his humanity as a way to protect his loved ones and friends. It was his way of shielding them.
Dear Elena, it's not my turn, but I wanted you to hear it from me. I think I've lost him. All I can do is hope that there's one small piece of his mind tucked away someplace safe. One final sliver of humanity holding on for dear life.
Even with his humanity switched off, deep inside, Damon held on to a sliver of it, his memories of Elena. This piece of memory ensured that he would never fully submit to the demon. Bonnie shared the message Enzo had left with the others, revealing that the demon controlling Damon and Enzo was none other than the Siren from the myth, said to be Satan's messenger. After Damon and Enzo threw the painter into the blood pool, he was devoured in an instant. Damon and Enzo were about to leave the slaughterhouse to hunt for new prey, when suddenly, the blood pool began to churn. A blood-soaked woman with long hair emerged, climbing up the iron ladder. Her beautiful singing voice struck straight to the soul. Damon and Enzo turned to see the naked woman standing above the blood pool. The Siren, Sybil, had finally restored her body through the sea of corpses and blood. She personally led Damon and Enzo to hunt down wicked humans, reveling in the joy of slaughter.
Slowest murder ever.
I'm telling his mind to stay calm. I read on the internet that chickens that are slaughtered in factories don't taste as good because their bodies release all this adrenaline.
Although both Damon and Enzo were under her control, Damon chose to embrace the killing, while Enzo, with a stoic expression, constantly fought Sybil in a battle of wills. If Enzo fought the battle in the open, Damon waged his in secret. He often used moments of rest to meet Elena in his dreams, keeping that last shred of his humanity alive.
Why is he always napping?
Sybil used her sultry, seductive figure to try and tempt Enzo, but his disinterest left her feeling thoroughly disappointed. In order to tame Enzo, Sybil uses her mind-reading skills to probe Enzo's mind. Afraid that Sybil might uncover some of his most important memories, Enzo deliberately avoided thinking about his beloved Bonnie, instead forcing himself to remember Sarah. From Enzo's mind, Sybil extracted Sarah's name. The more Enzo denied it, the more convinced Sybil became that Sarah was the woman he cared about. So, Sybil forced Damon and Enzo to hunt down Sarah. Meanwhile, Stefan and the others hadn't given up on saving Damon and Enzo. They discovered 2 more murders that had occurred earlier that morning, both victims named Sarah, though with different last names. This immediately raised Stefan's suspicion. Sarah was the last surviving member of their family line. Aside from those closest to him, only Enzo knew of Sarah's existence. Without a doubt, this was Enzo's way of sending them a message. They had to find Sarah before Damon and Enzo did. After mistakenly killing 2 wrong Sarahs, Enzo and Damon finally tracked down the real one. Enzo already knew Sarah, and after introducing Damon, Sarah quickly understood the situation and used vervain to knock Damon unconscious. Enzo's actions had put Sarah in danger, and he urged her to leave the country immediately. When Sarah returned to her hotel room to pack, she found Stefan and the others waiting for her.
Hello, love.
Enzo finally had the chance to explain to Bonnie why he had been acting so cold. The more specific his thoughts became, the easier it was for Sybil to sense them. Simply maintaining his facade was hard enough. He couldn't afford to get too close to Bonnie. After ensuring Sarah's safe departure, Enzo knew he had to return to Sybil. Sarah, however, had no affection for her great-great-great-uncle, Stefan. She didn't want anything to do with the Salvatore brothers, which was why she had refused to use Stefan's trust fund and was living in a hotel instead. Sarah had almost finished packing her things. Enzo and Bonnie went outside to get the car, but to Enzo's surprise, Bonnie knocked him out with vervain. Even if she had to tie him up, she was determined to take him home. Meanwhile, in the hallway, Caroline was on the phone with her daughters when she was suddenly ambushed by Damon. He tossed her daylight ring into the sun, stomped on her phone, and trapped her in the hallway. Damon then broke through the window and took Sarah hostage. Just as he was about to snap Sarah's neck, Stefan rushed to stop him, pleading, "She's the last of our bloodline!" Damon refused to believe it, so Stefan had to tell him the whole story. After Damon killed Sarah's parents, Stefan secretly took Sarah away and had been hiding the truth from his brother ever since. Still, Damon wouldn't let go. Stefan had to play his trump card. He warned Damon that Elena would never want him to do this. Elena was the key to triggering the last sliver of Damon's humanity, and sure enough, he released Sarah. But then Sybil intervened. She killed Sarah on the spot, and in a fit of rage, Stefan snapped Sybil's neck. He quickly bit into his wrist, trying to heal Sarah. But before he could save her, Sybil resurrected and easily overpowered Stefan, taking control of him.
So, who's Elena?
All along, Damon had been playing his role well, but Sybil had still managed to discover Elena's existence. Sybil entered Damon's mind and found the memories he had kept buried deep down, the memories of his first encounter with Elena. Sybil dug deeper, uncovering the story of Damon and Elena's love. This was the last sanctuary within Damon's heart. Sybil then altered Damon's memories, replacing Elena with herself.
I'm Sybil.
I'm Damon.
With Elena erased and Sybil in her place, Damon finally fell completely, surrendering to Sybil. Stefan could only watch helplessly as Sarah bled out and died, marking the complete extinction of the Salvatore bloodline. Sybil spared Stefan, as she had other plans for him. Meanwhile, Bonnie tried to flee with Enzo, but he was struck with a severe headache. as if Sybil had placed a curse on him. The farther he got from her, the worse the pain became. Bonnie had no choice but to pull over. With veins bulging, Enzo warned her that every extra minute they spent together increased the risk of exposing her to Sybil, putting Bonnie in grave danger. To protect Bonnie, Enzo couldn't stay. Afterward, Bonnie returned and rescued Caroline from her predicament. Stefan was full of bitterness. He ultimately failed to save Sarah. Meanwhile, Alaric and Georgie were studying the ancient book from the vault and discovered a mysterious cuneiform symbol. Georgie's expression instantly changed, and she quickly left the armory. Alaric found her in the hallway. It turned out Georgie had the same symbol on her abdomen, identical to the one in the book.
Do you believe in hell?
Georgie explained the reason behind the symbol. Years ago, she had driven a close friend home after they had been drinking heavily. They got into a car accident, and her friend was killed. Before Georgie was revived, her consciousness entered a space filled with loneliness and fear, where she saw this symbol. In that 1 minute she was dead, it felt like an eternity. Georgie believed that place was hell. Ever since then, the symbol of hell had appeared on her, a constant reminder that she was destined to return there one day. She assumed Alaric wouldn't believe her, but Alaric had been through worse. He'd seen everything. Later, Georgie discovered a rusted artifact among the armory's collection of relics, bearing the exact same symbol.
I think it was made in hell.
Damon had completely fallen. He and Sybil fed on human blood together. When Enzo returned, Damon plunged his hand into Enzo's chest while Sybil probed Enzo's memories. Enzo did his best to hide his conversations with Bonnie, and although his facade wasn't uncovered, Sybil still discovered Bonnie's existence. She was his true love, all along. Sarah's death hit Stefan hard, and his way of coping was to throw himself into fixing up the house. Caroline came to comfort him, and that's when she learned that the bedroom was being prepared for her 2 daughters. After all, they and Alaric would be seeing each other often in the future. Stefan was already slipping into the role of stepdad. Caroline found a ring in the closet that Stefan had prepared for his proposal. He had finally stopped being so hesitant. Caroline was both surprised and thrilled, urging Stefan to propose properly, with all the necessary steps.
Caroline, Elizabeth Forbes, will you do me the honor of wearing this engagement ring?
Sybil was about to stir up trouble again. In order to tame the vampire Enzo, she sent Damon to kill Bonnie. At that moment, Bonnie was helping Caroline choose a wedding dress. Damon intercepted the bouquet, and the store clerk fell victim to him shortly after. Caroline charged at Damon, but he easily overpowered her. Bonnie took the chance to hide in the wardrobe. After flinging Caroline aside, Damon tracked Bonnie down by the sound of her heartbeat. Caroline and Bonnie then teamed up, executing a coordinated attack. Caroline impaled Damon with a wooden stake, pinning him to the wall. He could only watch as they escaped. It was clear that Damon had held back. He could have ambushed and killed the powerless Bonnie, but he chose to make a grand entrance instead. And when he captured Caroline, he could have easily snapped her neck. Before long, Sybil and Enzo arrived. Sybil was furious about Damon's failure, while Enzo, on the other hand, was secretly pleased. However, Sybil's sharp instincts picked up on the shift in Enzo's emotions. She suspected Damon was hiding something from her and decided to dig deeper. Sybil then invaded Damon's mind, searching for memories of Bonnie. She discovered that Bonnie and Damon had been close, life-swapping friends who had built a deep bond while trapped in the prison world. Once again, Sybil used her old trick, altering Damon's memories and replacing Bonnie with herself. Caroline and Bonnie informed Stefan of the attack, and Stefan decided to confront his brother. Meanwhile, Alaric was researching the mysterious weapon from hell. His intuition told him that 200 years ago, the armory had sealed Sybil with the help of this artifact, but how to use it remained a mystery. Stefan urged Alaric to figure out how to use the artifact quickly, or else Damon and Enzo would sink even deeper into darkness. Surprisingly, Damon contacted Stefan and arranged to meet him at the school. Damon claimed that he was about to enter a death match and needed his brother's help. Stefan was confused, advising Damon that the priority should be breaking free from Sybil's control. Damon opened the trunk of his car, revealing an unconscious Enzo. Elsewhere, Sybil confronted Caroline and Bonnie, forcing Bonnie to make an impossible choice between Enzo and Damon. Enzo and Damon were about to engage in a fight to the death, and Bonnie alone held the power to decide their fate.
In exactly 12 minutes, Damon and Enzo will fight to the death. They don't have a choice. I willed it so. One of them will lose. So if you're not gonna choose, then I guess we'll just let the boys settle it amongst themselves.
Playful Josie and Lizzie fought over the artifact, and Alaric rushed over to stop them. As the artifact hit the ground, it emitted a deep, resonating sound, causing both Josie and Lizzie to scream and clutch their heads in pain. Alaric quickly picked it up. It turned out that this was a tuning fork, and the sound it produced had the power to weaken witches. The school's storage room became the battleground for Damon and Enzo's duel. With only 5 minutes left until the fight, Stefan's attempts to talk them out of it were futile. Both Damon and Enzo insisted on battling to the death. Even without Sybil's control, they had been at odds for a long time. Damon accused Enzo of always going against Sybil, dragging everyone else into the mess. Enzo, in turn, looked down on Damon for giving up and willingly becoming Sybil's lapdog, even trying to kill Bonnie. In truth, both were trying to protect their loved ones in their own way. As Sybil, Caroline, and Bonnie rushed to the duel, Sybil, confident in her immortality, refused to wear a seatbelt. This gave Caroline and Bonnie the perfect opportunity. Bonnie slammed on the brakes, sending Sybil flying out of the car. That's what you get for not wearing a seatbelt. So, will Alaric discover a way to seal Sybil? Will Damon and Enzo truly fight to the death? Stay tuned for the next thrilling episode.